When the lawyer finished reading the will, a strange silence filled the room for a brief moment and then turned into quiet laughter. The sound did not come from one person, but from many voices joining together. Everyone's eyes slowly moved toward Anna. She was sitting at the far end of the table, her hands resting calmly, her back straight, and her face still. The paper in front of her clearly said that she had inherited a tiny old house at the edge of town. It was the only thing her grandmother had left for her. Mark. Her uncle leaned back in his chair and laughed without trying to hide it. He said the house was so small that one strong wind could move it. Lily, her cousin, covered her mouth and whispered that it was not even worth visiting. A few others smiled and nodded. To them, the tiny house meant nothing. It was old, far away, and useless in their eyes. Anna listened without reacting. She did not feel angry. She did not feel ashamed. Instead, her mind drifted to memories she kept close to her heart. She remembered sitting beside her grandmother in a quiet room, listening to soft stories from the past. She remembered gentle hands, warm tea, and long evenings that felt safe and calm. Her grandmother had often spoken about a small house where she once felt truly happy. That house had been described as simple but full of meaning. When the meeting ended, the family quickly stood up and gathered their things. Their voices were loud and full of plans. Some spoke about selling land, others talked about travel and new homes. No one asked Anna how she felt. As they walked outside, Mark joked again and said Anna should turn the tiny house into a storage room. Laughter followed them into the hallway. Anna walked out last. She paused near the door and looked back at the empty room. The chair where her grandmother once sat during family meetings now stood quiet and still. Anna took a slow breath and stepped outside. 2 days later, Anna took a bus toward the edge of town. The road grew quieter with every mile. Tall trees lined the path, and the noise of the city slowly faded away. When the bus stopped, Anna stepped down and walked along a narrow path. After a few minutes, she saw it. The tiny house stood alone, surrounded by trees and soft grass. The paint on its walls had faded, and the roof looked uneven. The windows were dusty, and the front door showed signs of age. From the outside, the house looked even smaller than she imagined. Many people would have turned around and left. Anna stood there quietly. She did not rush. She took in every detail. The place felt forgotten by time, yet it did not feel empty. It felt like it was waiting. She reached into a pocket and pulled out the old key the lawyer had given her. It was heavy and cool in her hand. She remembered her grandmother once saying that keys carry stories. Anna smiled faintly at the thought as she unlocked the door and pushed it open. The air inside felt different. A soft smell of old wood and something comforting filled the space. Light entered through the doorway and touched the floor. The house was small, but it felt warm. Inside, there was a single main room with simple furniture. A small table stood near the window. A chair rested beside it. Shelves lined the wall, filled with books and old items placed carefully. Everything looked neat, as if someone had taken great care to keep it that way. Anna walked slowly, her footsteps gentle. She ran her fingers along the table and felt its smooth surface. On one shelf, she noticed a framed photo. It showed her grandmother as a young woman, standing in front of the same tiny house. Her smile in the picture was calm and proud. Anna felt her throat tighten. She realized this place was more than just a house. It was a piece of her grandmother's life. She explored further and found a small bedroom and a clean kitchen area. Nothing was broken. Nothing felt useless. Everything had a purpose. The house was simple, but it felt complete. As Anna stood in the center of the room, she felt something shift inside her. The laughter of her family faded from her mind. In its place grew a quiet sense of belonging. She did not yet know why her grandmother chose her for this house, but she felt that the choice was not a mistake. Anna stepped back outside and looked at the tiny house again. This time, it looked different. It no longer seemed small or weak. It felt strong in its own way. She locked the door gently and held the key close. Deep inside, Anna felt that this house held secrets and stories that had not yet been revealed. And soon, the same family who laughed would want to step inside and see what they could not see before. The next morning, Anna returned to the tiny house with a small bag and a quiet mind. The sun was soft, and the air felt fresh. Birds moved between the trees, and the place felt alive in a calm way. She unlocked the door and stepped inside again. This time, she did not feel like a visitor. She felt like someone who belonged there. Anna placed her bag near the table and slowly walked around the room. She looked at the shelves more closely. Some books were old and worn. Others looked newer than she expected. She pulled one book out and opened it. Inside the front cover, her grandmother's handwriting filled the page. The words were neat and careful. It was a journal. Anna sat on the chair and began to read. The journal spoke about simple days, hard choices, and quiet hopes. Her grandmother wrote about leaving the busy town long ago and choosing a small life instead. She wrote about people who laughed at her decision. She wrote about peace found in silence and strength found in simplicity. As Anna read, she felt closer to her grandmother than ever before. Each page felt like a conversation that had waited years to happen. The tiny house was not just a place to live. It was a lesson her grandmother wanted to pass on. Later that day, Anna noticed a small wooden box under the bed. It was old but clean. Inside were letters tied with a thin ribbon. Each letter had a date and a name. Many names were unfamiliar. Some letters spoke of kindness given and kindness returned. Others spoke of help offered without expecting anything back. Anna realized her grandmother had quietly helped many people over the years. She had given them shelter, food, or guidance when they needed it most. The tiny house had been a safe place for more than just one person. By the afternoon, Anna decided to clean the house gently. She wiped the windows, swept the floor, and opened them to let light and air inside. The house seemed to brighten with every small effort. It felt as if it was breathing again. While Anna worked, a car stopped near the path outside. She looked up and saw Tom, her brother, stepping out. He looked unsure, holding his phone in his hand. He walked closer and glanced at the house. Tom said he was just passing by and thought he would check on her. His voice sounded casual, but his eyes showed curiosity. Anna invited him inside. Tom stepped through the door and stopped. He looked around slowly. His expression changed from doubt to surprise. He noticed the clean space, the books, the photo on the shelf, and the calm feeling in the room. He said he did not expect it to look like this. He admitted he thought the house would be empty and falling apart. Anna smiled gently and said the house had been cared for, just quietly. Tom asked about the journal. Anna told him about their grandmother's words and stories. Tom listened without interrupting. For the first time, he looked thoughtful instead of amused. Before leaving, Tom said the place felt peaceful. He said he could understand why their grandmother loved it. As he walked away, he glanced back once more. That evening, Tom spoke to the family. At first, they laughed again. Mark joked that Tom had been fooled by fresh air and old furniture. Lily said Anna was being sentimental, but Tom did not laugh with them. He said the house was different from what they imagined. Curiosity began to spread, even if pride kept it hidden. A few days later, Anna returned from a short walk and found 2 more cars near the path. Mark and Lily stood outside the tiny house, looking around with mixed expressions. They said they were just curious and wanted to see what Anna was doing with the place. Anna welcomed them inside without hesitation as they entered. Their laughter faded. Lily touched the table and looked at the shelves. Mark looked at the photo of their grandmother and grew quiet. The house did not match the jokes they had made. Anna showed them the journal and the letters. She did not explain much. She let the words speak for themselves. Lily read a letter aloud and stopped halfway through. Her voice softened. Mark cleared his throat and looked away. He said he never knew their mother had lived such a life. He admitted he thought success only came from big things and loud achievements. The tiny house felt fuller now, not because of the people inside, but because of the silence they shared. When they left, they did not laugh. They did not joke. They simply said they would come again. That night, Anna sat alone inside the tiny house. She looked around and felt something steady grow inside her. The house was changing how people saw it, one visit at a time, and she knew this was only the beginning. The days that followed felt different around the tiny house. Anna noticed it in small ways. The air seemed lighter. The mornings felt calmer. Even the trees around the house appeared more alive. She continued to care for the place with quiet attention, opening the windows each morning and keeping everything clean and simple. Word about the tiny house began to spread through the family, even beyond those who had visited. Conversations that once carried laughter now carried curiosity. Some relatives asked questions in low voices. Others made excuses to drive near the edge of town. No one laughed anymore, but not everyone understood yet. One afternoon, Anna discovered something new while cleaning a narrow shelf near the back wall. Behind a row of books, she felt a loose wooden panel. She paused, then gently moved it aside. A small hidden space appeared. Inside were more journals and a folded paper tied with string. Anna sat down slowly and opened the first journal. This one felt different. The writing spoke about struggle and choice. Her grandmother wrote about a time when she had almost sold the tiny house. She wrote about pressure from family who believed the land was worthless. She wrote about standing alone and trusting her heart when no one else did. The folded paper caught Anna's attention. It was a legal note written years ago. It explained why the house had been left to her. Her grandmother believed Anna understood quiet strength. She believed Anna saw value where others did not. The words felt warm and firm at the same time. Anna closed the journal and held it close. For the first time, she fully understood the weight of what she had inherited. It was not just walls and wood. It was trust. That same evening, a knock sounded at the door. Anna opened it to find an older woman standing there. Her name was Rose. She said she once stayed in the tiny house many years ago when she had nowhere else to go. She had heard that the house was alive again. Anna invited her in. Rose looked around with gentle eyes and smiled. She said the place felt the same. She shared stories about nights spent talking with Anna's grandmother, about kindness given without questions. Rose said that tiny house had saved her life in a quiet way. Before leaving, Rose placed a small envelope on the table. Inside was a thank you note and a modest amount of money. Anna tried to refuse, but Rose insisted. She said it was not payment but respect. The visit stayed with Anna long after Rose left. Soon after, more people came. A man who once repaired the roof without asking for much. A young woman who learned how to read in that small room. Each person carried a story tied to the house. Each visit added another layer of meaning. The family could not ignore it anymore. One weekend, nearly everyone came together. Cars lined the narrow path. Voices filled the air outside. This time, there was no laughter. There was nervous energy and curiosity. Inside, the tiny house felt full but calm. People stood close, reading journals, touching letters, looking at photos. Mark sat quietly in a chair, his head lowered. Lily stood near the window, her eyes wet but steady. Tom helped guide people through the rooms, explaining nothing but letting the space speak. At one point, Mark stood up and cleared his throat. He said he had been wrong. He admitted he laughed because he did not understand. He said the house had shown him a kind of wealth he never learned to value. Others nodded. Some looked ashamed. Some looked grateful. Then someone asked Anna what she planned to do with the house. Anna took a moment before answering. She said the house was never meant to be owned loudly. It was meant to be shared quietly. She said she would keep it open for those who needed peace, guidance, or a place to breathe. She said that was its purpose. Silence followed her words, but it was a good silence. As evening fell, people began to leave one by one. They walked slower than before. Some hugged Anna, some thanked her, some simply smiled. When the house was quiet again, Anna sat alone by the window. The setting sun painted the room with warm light. She felt steady, not proud, not nervous, just certain. The tiny house had changed many hearts, including her own, but she sensed there was still one final moment ahead. One moment that would fully reveal why this small place mattered so much. The tiny house grew quieter after the family gathering, but the silence felt full instead of empty. Anna noticed how even silence had changed its meaning. Before, it was something people avoided. Now it felt like a space where thoughts could rest. Anna began visiting the house every day. Sometimes she stayed for hours. Sometimes she stayed only long enough to open the windows and check the rooms. She did not rush anything. She felt that the house worked best when allowed to breathe at its own pace. One morning, Anna found an old envelope slipped under the door. There was no name on it. Inside was a short note written in careful handwriting. The note thanked her for keeping the house alive again. It said the place had helped more people than she could imagine. At the bottom was a simple drawing of the tiny house. Anna smiled softly and placed the note inside one of the journals. As weeks passed, people from outside the family began to visit. Some came because they heard stories. Others came because they felt drawn to the place without knowing why. Anna never advertised. She never explained much. She simply welcomed them. One afternoon, a man named Paul arrived. He looked tired and unsure. He said he lost his job and did not know what direction to take next. Anna offered him tea and listened. She did not give advice. She let him speak. Paul stayed for hours. When he left, he looked lighter. He said the house helped him hear his own thoughts again. He promised to return one day with better news. Moments like that became common. Not everyone was comfortable with the change. Some family members began to worry. Mark spoke to Anna privately one evening. He said people might take advantage of her kindness. He said the house could become a burden. Anna listened carefully. She thanked him for his concern. Then she said the house had already carried many burdens before and had never broken. Mark said nothing after that. Soon, a letter arrived from the town council. It spoke about land value and development plans. The land near the tiny house had become interesting to investors. They offered a large amount of money for the property. It was more money than Anna had ever seen written on one page. Mark and others encouraged her to consider it. They said she could live comfortably. They said she had already honored her grandmother enough. Anna read the letter many times. She did not feel tempted, but she felt tested. That night, she opened her grandmother's final journal again. She reread the words about choosing what feels right even when pressure grows loud. The next day, Anna wrote a short response. She politely declined the offer. The news surprised the family. Some were confused. Some were disappointed. Some felt proud but did not say it out loud. A few days later, another visitor arrived. It was an older man named Henry. He moved slowly and leaned on a stick. He said he once owned land near the tiny house. Long ago, he wanted to buy it from Anna's grandmother. She refused him kindly. He admitted he never understood why until now. Henry said he had made many deals in his life. Most of them were forgotten, but this house remained in his memory. He said it reminded him of a choice he never made. Before leaving, Henry gave Anna a small wooden carving. It was shaped like a tree with deep roots. He said it belonged here. That evening, Anna placed the carving on the shelf beside the photo of her grandmother. It felt right. The family gathered again weeks later, but this time the mood was different. They came quietly. They helped clean. They brought food. No one joked. No one judged. They sat together and listened to visitors share stories. Tom told Anna later that the house had changed how he thought about success. Lily said she felt calmer there than anywhere else. Mark admitted he felt something like regret but also relief. As night fell, the tiny house glowed softly from within. Light spilled through the windows, warm and steady. From the outside it still looked small, but those who stepped inside knew better now. Anna stood by the door and watched her family talk quietly. She realized the house was no longer just a memory of the past. It had become a living place again. Yet deep inside, Anna felt that one last truth still waited to be revealed. Something that would complete the story her grandmother had started long ago. The tiny house welcomed a quiet morning filled with soft light and gentle air. Anna arrived early, as she often did. She opened the windows and let the breeze move through the rooms. The house felt settled, like it had reached a calm after a long journey. Anna stood near the shelf where her grandmother's photo rested. Beside it was the wooden tree carving Henry had given her. Deep roots spread across its base. Anna touched it lightly and felt a sense of completion she could not fully explain. Later that day, a young woman named Nora arrived. She looked nervous and held a folded paper in her hands. She said she had been searching for a place where she could make a clear decision about her future. She had heard stories about the tiny house and felt drawn to it. Anna welcomed her inside and offered her a seat. Nora spoke slowly about her fears, her doubts, and her feeling of being lost. Anna listened without interrupting. She did not try to guide her toward an answer. She simply gave her time. Nora stayed until evening. When she left, she smiled with quiet confidence. She said she finally felt ready to choose her own path. She thanked Anna in the house before walking away. As Anna closed the door that night, she noticed something new on the table. It was an envelope she had never seen before. Her name was written on it in her grandmother's handwriting. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a final letter. Her grandmother wrote about the tiny house and the life built around it. She wrote that the house was never meant to be hidden or praised. It was meant to stand quietly and offer what it could. She explained that she chose Anna because Anna always listened more than she spoke and saw more than she showed. The letter said the true inheritance was not the house but the role that came with it, the role of keeping a place where people could remember who they were. At the end of the letter, her grandmother wrote that when Anna felt ready, she would know what to do next. Anna folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Tears filled her eyes, but her heart felt steady. She finally understood everything. The following week, Anna made a simple decision. She placed a small sign near the path to the tiny house. It did not advertise. It did not explain. It simply said that the door was open during the day. People continued to come, but the house never felt crowded. Visitors respected the quiet. They spoke softly. Some stayed long. Some stayed briefly. All left changed in small ways. The family watched this transformation with new eyes. Mark began visiting alone sometimes. He said the house helped him think clearly. Lily brought books and left notes of thanks. Tom helped repair the path and keep the yard clean. One afternoon, the family gathered again, not for discussion or judgment, but for gratitude. They shared food and stories. They spoke about memories they had forgotten and lessons they were still learning. Mark stood and spoke to Anna. He said laughter had once blinded him. He said the tiny house taught him that value is not measured by size or noise. Others nodded in agreement. Dana did not respond with long words. She simply smiled as the seasons changed. The tiny house remained steady. It looked the same from the outside. Small, quiet, easy to overlook, but those who stepped inside felt something rare. They felt seen. They felt grounded. They felt reminded of what mattered. One evening, as the sun lowered behind the trees, Anna sat alone in the main room. Warm light filled the space. She thought about the laughter that once followed her inheritance. It felt distant now, like an echo that had lost its power. The tiny house had answered that laughter without argument. It had done so by being exactly what it was meant to be. Anna locked the door gently and stepped outside. She looked back one last time before heading down the path. The house stood calm and strong, its light glowing softly through the window. It was still tiny, but now everyone knew that inside it lived something far greater than anyone had ever imagined.